Okay, so we're back to finish off the introduction or the outline of topics for Chapter 1. I left off talking about the 6 major categories of crime theories, which are part of the criminological enterprise: crime theory and theory development. And the fourth sub-area that we will be covering in this class has to do with corrections, rehabilitation, and treatment to prevent, control, or effectively respond to crime. And in Chapter 1, that notion of crime control policies and the specific connections to crime theory are is the first lecture note supplement that you have for Chapter 1. So make sure that you look at those. These are concepts of what are crime control policies and how are they connected to crime theories will be a recurring theme in every chapter, starting in Chapter 3. After that information is presented to you in Chapter 1, you should come away with an appreciation of the difference between deviance, delinquency, and crime. There are, as we will see, many crimes are forms of deviance. Murder is certainly both a crime and deviant, but there are many human activities that violate social norms, such as, for example, a silly example, sneezing and not covering your nose. That's deviant behavior, but it is not a crime. So not all crimes are considered deviant, and not all deviant behavior is criminal, and understanding those distinctions will be important. Elsewhere in Chapter 1, you will be introduced to the two different views of what should be a crime and who gets to decide. And the two perspectives are represented as the consensus view and the conflict view. That's an important concept to be mindful of. You may change your mind, you may disagree, you may find you don't find either perspective persuasive, but the concept here is to understand that criminal behavior is socially defined, legally and socially defined, and there is criticism that some things are made crimes that many people do not feel should be a crime, and that's the debate between the consensus and the conflict perspectives. And then rounding out the end of the chapter, you come back to, or actually you enter into a brief overview of the 7 theories of crime that 6 theories of crime, but Chapter 5 is broken into 2 parts. Categories that you'll be focusing on in Chapters 4 through 9. And again, important for that is and again to reference go-to information that is designed to help you organize the different theories and keep them straight. There are 2 places that I'll direct you to that are referenced in this outline. One is the big picture of crime theories, or in the overview of crime. The other is criminological theories outline. Those can be accessed both in Chapter 1 and in essential resources. The big picture of crime is just that. It is what you need in Chapter 1 to go forward, which is a sense that there are different theories, that each has its own perspective about what influences criminal behavior. Important to remember, there is no one theory that explains all crime. There are many theories, and some of those theories overlap, and that can make studying crime theory a challenge, but we'll get there. For Chapter 1, it's to be aware that there are these 6 different categories: choice theory, biological or psychological trait theories, social structure theories, social process theories, conflict and critical theories, and integrated and developmental theories. Likewise, crime victimization theory, which is covered in Chapter 3. So this big picture is just that, an introduction, the big picture, connecting eventually crime theory to crime control policy implications. First, you need to understand the theory, then you need, and our work together will be to figure out, okay, if I believe that some crime at least is the result of simple choice, people weigh their options and decide committing crime is worth it, then the crime control policies would probably relate to how do we punish people strongly enough so that they won't commit crime, or they'll be afraid of getting caught and getting punished harshly. Conversely, if we are looking at a situation or a certain perspective on crime that looks at the social structure, that where people live, neighborhood conditions, cultural forces within neighborhoods, families and neighborhoods, the struggle to get by and get ahead, very economically based perspective. If we were to determine that a certain crime or groups of crime are related to the social structure perspective, or social structure theories, we'd be looking to change the conditions in the neighborhood, the conditions in the schools, the conditions in which people live, work, play, go to school, and look to prevent crime or prevent more crime, reduce crime, or prevent it from happening again in the future after it does occur by addressing those social structure issues. So that's a thumbnail sketch of that. In this big picture, it's just that. It's like the top layer. It's top layer. So victimization theories, each theory, starting with victimization, there are some basic information here. Classical theory, basic information. Each theory is part of a chapter, and this is the visual overview of the chapter. I apologize that it might be a little difficult to read. It was the best quality that the publisher was able to get to me. Choice theories, you'll see there's just a little blurb about that. We'll talk about positivism and the change from looking at crime simply as a matter of choice and viewing it more as a result of something beyond choice, social, biological, psychological, economic forces that come to bear and create conditions of increased risk of criminality. So we'll look and we'll compare the classical school, which is basically rational choice theory, with the positivist school. Then we'll move on. The first theory in the positivist area that we'll look at is biological trait theories, or sociobiology or biocriminology, biosocial trait theory. All of those names apply. And this big picture overview is, again, just to give you a top layer sketch that within biosocial or biological trait theories, there is a biochemical group, a neurological group, a genetic group, and an evolutionary group. Then we move into psychological trait theories in the second part of chapter 5. Again, this visual overview is not as clear as I think it will be in Blackboard rather than cut and paste here. And we'll look at the 6 different branches or groups of psychological trait theories, which are listed here, the largest of which involves psychological traits, characteristics, or disorders. And this is not a psychology class, but certainly psychological traits are a prominent and recognized crime theory that deserves our attention. Then we move from trait theories, what's inside a person, to looking at social forces on crime and criminality. And there are 4 categories of sociological theories we'll look at: social structure, social process, social conflict and critical criminology, and developmental theories. And again, here in this big picture, it's an overview. Social structure theories, the chapter will take you through these 6 different major headings, and we'll be working in social structure theory and in 3 different subgroups: social disorganization, strain, cultural deviance. Don't get overwhelmed. It's easy to get overwhelmed. This big picture overview is the place to go back to keep yourself organized until you're ready to do a deeper dive, and I'll talk about that momentarily. Social process theories, again, there will be different groups: social learning theory, social control theory, social labeling or social reaction theories. And this big picture just gives you that very big picture. What's the difference between those 3 different categories of social process theories, and a whole chapter on that. Then we move to social conflict and critical criminology, looking at both contemporary and early contributors to the critical criminology theory, starting with Marx's theory, which is the haves and the have-nots are in competition, simply put, and those who don't want and will, if they can't access what they need and want and feel is fair through legitimate means, they may look to illegitimate means such as crime. And so beyond Marxism, we'll also look at left realism, critical feminist theory, power control theory, and peacemaking criminology, which are emerging, newer categories of critical criminology. And the last is developmental and integrated theories, and those break down into groups of life course, latent trait, and trajectory theories. What we will see when we get to chapter 9 is that there's a lot of overlap. Pieces from other theories we have studied through the semester emerge as important components, but just a component of one of these newer categories. And that will bring us to the end of the semester. So hopefully, again, please don't get overwhelmed. There are lots of materials here to help you. I promise you, when you're ready to do that deeper dive, when we get into chapter 3 in earnest and going forward, there is a detailed outline that is organized in one document and color-coded, so that all of the notes and the visuals that I provide to you for understanding victims and crime victimization are within this unit, which is designated as gold. Rational choice theory, which is another unit that's just clear. Rational choice theory tends to be black and white. You make a choice, you got to pay the price. We'll talk a little bit about positivism and then trait theories. The first group, as I mentioned previously, biological and biosocial trait theories. Then we'll move into psychological trait theories. The groups of sociological theories of crime, social structure. That whole section is yellow to root you to the notion, okay, if I'm reading this and it's yellow, it's about social structure theory, even if it sounds like it's about something else. Social process theories, social conflict and critical criminology, and then ending with developmental or integrated theories, which are life course, propensity, and trajectory theories of crime. So lots of new language, lots to learn, very interesting. Get organized, stay organized, ask for help if you need it. There are plenty of resources. You just need to take your time and use the resources that have been made available to you. There are really no shortcuts, but I'm here to help, so let me know. Thank you and good luck.